Hi, everybody. This is Chris,
And this is Matt.
and this is Street Blaster, Street Beat, and Ghetto Blaster.
Yes, I see you have both covers up. I like that.
Both covers up.
They're vastly different covers.
Vastly different covers for exactly the same game. It depends on
Yeah.
where in the world you played this game. Odds are you probably didn't play this game.
Yeah, you probably didn't.
Probably didn't. Um,
Which cover do you prefer?
that is a tough one. I mean, one's got Gargamel doing a head spin.
Right, it's Geordie LaForge making Gargamel do a head spin.
Yeah.
But I think the other one is more artistically interesting,
I think so
but
too. Yeah.
but not as fucking crazy. I like the weird mania of the nightmarish mania of the Street Beat cover.
I feel like the Street Beat cover sets the tone of the game better,
Definitely.
but the Ghetto Blaster sets the, I think, intended vibe
Right.
better.
Right.
So, all right.
Let's get it going.
Let's get it going here.
This is some shit, this one.
But is it a review?
No, it's definitely not a review.
No. I would say it's, two people cooperating to make a video. COVID, if you will.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
No?
You've
Is
been
that
sitting
not
on
what
that gem since March.
A while. I always forget to do it, though. So, yeah, that's actually, yeah. You can't deliver a joke that badly and not have it been something you're sitting on
Right.
for a while.
Right, that probably kept you up at night deciding if you were going to trot that one out or not.
Yeah.
I think you made the wrong choice, personally. All right.
Anyway, no, it's not a review. It's sort of book club format. We pick a game every month. We play it, pick two games. Short game this week. First Saturday of the month, we record our long game. Put it out sometime that weekend. And this week, our short game is Street Beat. And we're going to talk about it for a while and tell you what our next games are at the end of the video.
Yeah, play along.
Play along. You should.
Like Lamb Chop.
Play along. Talk with other viewers in our Discord and Reddit fan-based little areas that I think are awesome.
Yeah, we have great people who watch us.
I agree. So, go talk to them. Have the whole experience of the Lost Sectors.
Right, the ecosystem, if
The
you will.
ecosystem, yeah, feeds in on itself. And we go off the rails when we talk about this and talk about many, many other things. Since it's a short game, I don't know how off the rails we're gonna get here.
Yeah, this was an interesting, weird little game.
Yes.
It came out in 1985. It's by Mastertronics. Is that how you pronounce it?
Virgin and Mastertronic, sort of depending on where you are. Both are kings of low budget software.
Yes. If you ever played Bozo's Night Out,
And I did.
and which amazes me because I had never heard of Bozo's Night Out, but it's the same developer and it's similar because you're like walking around an environment, avoiding people doing things.
We should do like a rapid collection of short games sometime for a video and put Bozo's Night Out in there because Bozo's Night Out does not need its own episode. But it needs you to play it.
Sure. You're just like a drunk asshole who's out.
So yeah, you start at the bar and you've had so many beers and then you try to walk home, and every night you go to the bar you get a little drunker, so the controls get worse and worse and you're more likely to ram into somebody else or a cop or hookers or any other inappropriate thing you find just floating around the park or streets to get home and go to bed.
For 1984 when it came out.
Yeah, I mean, the 80s were crazy, man.
Yeah. Even this game has a little bit of an edge to it. I like that. Like I like when things are a little unpolished and maybe a little, salacious.
Well, yeah, and like this has got the psycho killer that's just running around the streets ready to kill you. Like,
Right.
like I understood the cops. Okay, let's go back to the theme here. We're already too far ahead of where we are.
Yeah, let's
Confusing
talk about what this
people
game
on what's
is.
the simplest game.
Yeah. So this is a game where you are Rockin' Rodney, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you work for a record company named Significance, correct?
Not if you read certain instructions that say it's Interdisc, but the title above the store definitely says Significance.
Right. It's Interdisc / Significance. They merged and go by both names.
Right.
So you run around to houses and collect tapes.
Yep.
So the first phase of the game is wandering around the city, and it's got a map. It's a real city, kind of. And you collect tapes from any house with a flashing door, as one does in real life. And after that, you have to get a certain number of people to dance by shooting them with notes from your boombox.
Right.
And once you have a certain number of people dancing, you go back to Significance, Interdisc, Interslice, whatever the hell it's called. And then you do it again.
Yeah.
And you just keep doing it.
Yeah, and I think there's 10 tapes to win the game.
Yeah, and each one has more people that you have to get dancing. And as you collect the tapes, the number of nefarious citizens increases.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of people who don't want you to succeed on your mission. And the first time you play this, you'll probably be quite confused because everything will be fine, and then all of a sudden you'll be dead, or your boombox will be broken, or it'll be out of batteries. Like, all kinds of bad things will happen to you. And until you learn what the people to avoid and the people that are okay, it's a little confusing.
I'm glad I played this game the way I would have played it when I was a kid. And what I mean by that is, sometimes with our short games, I just sit down and I spend a day playing the game, trying to figure it out, trying to dig into it, trying to really tear through it. I didn't do that with this game. I fired it up at the day after we started, played it for a little bit, went a couple days, played it again for a little bit, and each time I understood more and I got better at it. It's not something you're going to sit down and grind to figure out. It's meant more for like the Atari era, Commodore era of, I'm going to play this for about 15 minutes and then I'm going to play the next game. This is just a snack size game, and that's how it should be played. And by the end of the month, I was not bad. I haven't beaten it yet, but
it gets quite hard. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So like I think the initial challenges of this game are learning how to get around the city.
Yep.
Learning who is good and who is bad.
Right.
And it's further complicated because sometimes you can get the bad people to dance. Sometimes the people, like, there's one helpful person, and if you just sit down and play this, you will spend 20 minutes thinking he's the baddest of the bad guys because he looks different, unlike the rest of the bad guys. But no, he's a helpful guy.
If you see him, point him out, because I don't know who you're talking about.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God! There's a flashing guy in a striped shirt, and if you touch him, he teleports you either to the next tape or to interdisc.
Oh, holy cow! I gotta find him. Okay.
Yeah, he's the problem solver, because one of the things that drove me fucking nuts about this game was the map.
That's what I was gonna say. Is there's a good and bad thing about the map, and that it is always the same map, but the stuff on it is never in the same place.
Right. I think there's always electronics repair place right next to
maybe
Significance. I think that's true. Because either that or I got some really good random generation when I
Maybe.
played.
One of the things I hated about the screen, like you can go left and right and you can kind of learn your way around, but one of the tricky things is you're on this side of the street here.
There he is. That was him.
That was him? Him?
That's him
He's
right
your problem
there.
solver?
Yeah. If you
Awesome.
touch that guy, he will take you to the place you want to be.
Awesome.
Yeah. This will help you with your future street beat endeavors should they exist.
Okay, good to know who he is. So when you're walking left and right on the street, this is how most people think of these games. You can go down and it will point you at the other side of the street. But since it's perspective, if you've been going left on the street and you go to the bottom and you want to keep going in the same direction, you now have to go right.
Right. These many Commodore games, it seems, do things like this with perspective, and I get it. Like what was that space horror
Project
thing?
Firestart.
Project Firestart. It did the same thing. You have north-south corridors represented.
There's the psycho killer.
Corridors. Yeah.
The crazy hair,
Yeah.
he'll just kill you.
Yeah, the Robert Smith looking guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's the worst. I like that all the bad guys kind of do different things. Like some of them steal your tape, some of them break your shit, some of them just kill you. It's great.
Some of them just kill you, and they're never like. Some of them aren't necessarily meaning to be bad. Like there's a tone deaf or dancer,
tone deaf walkers
who are trying to dance and just bump into you and break your shit. So it's the 80s. We're experimenting with how video games are put together and present themselves, coupled with limited technology. And you get trying to figure out perspective in a lot of these games. And like, here's one of the things, like I mentioned this when I was like working on Can I Make Zorro Fun?
Mm-hmm.
If you go from screen to screen in Zorro, how they draw the art changes from screen to screen. Some are completely straight on. Some have a 1 point perspective. So others have a 2 point perspective. Sometimes it switches sides you're looking at. And the art style is not consistent from screen to screen.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I think they put this sort of 1 point, everything points to the center of the screen. So they managed to keep it consistent that way. But having to wrap your brain around what's happening sometimes is a trick.
Yeah. For me, it was impossible. So I relied heavily on finding that guy. Like I would just get lost, and then I'd look at a map of the city, and I'd like, okay, I think if I do this and this, I can get back to somewhere that I recognize. But no, I never could. I just would find that guy, touch him, and then he'd take me somewhere that I want to be. And hopefully I wouldn't get lost.
Yeah,
again.
Lots of damage by Tone Deaf Walker. One of the things I liked is making the bottom of the screen be your boombox.
Yeah. I like that a lot too. The jam box, and it shows you your volume and your batteries. So you like if you run out of batteries, this is quite frustrating. Everyone you've made dancing stops, which isn't so bad the first few tapes, but the other thing that seems to happen is the second you get your jam box out, everyone goes home, and like there's very few people out. Which, if you've ever ridden a public bus with someone who's not using their headphones, and is like, it makes sense because like no one wants to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone runs home, and you're stuck just wandering around the city
trying to get
batteries.
As many people.
Yeah. Your batteries don't go down until you shoot, and if you turn the volume up, the notes go farther, but it costs you more batteries.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was going to say that's a great mechanic, and I'm betting you were about to say the same thing.
It's a great mechanic, but it didn't really feel meaningful to me because I think there's a balance issue where some of the bad guys are so fast.
Like that guy was just
like that guy. The Tone Deaf Walker is so fast that and they come like the screens are consistent. Like if you're following these people and they're on the street and they're going to be on the next screen. But that also means is if you're by the edge of the screen and a bad guy enters the screen, you
Boom.
have no recourse. You're just
Mm-hmm.
done. So a lot of this game is a crapshoot in that way.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's a great mechanic, but I rarely used it. I usually kept my volume in the middle or low,
Mm-hmm.
and just accepted that I had to get pretty close to people. And once you learn who's good and who's bad, it gets a little
It's
easier
not too bad.
to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like, and it's no matter what you do, like if you turn the music off or anything, it just clears your score. So like if you're trying to save batteries, it's like
Yeah, if the one thing you can do to avoid the people is run into a building, which I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
Those were kind of the intense, really fun moments I had in this game. Was ducking into a building, waiting for a tone deaf walker to go by, or the cop to go by, or
Yeah.
the Karen lady to go by.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say this is like a must play. I think the pleasure of this game is just in its weirdness.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say it's worth booting up and trying and messing around with it. But I never was like, oh man, I gotta beat this. I gotta return this 8th tape, or I'm never gonna get to sleep tonight, you know?
Right. You don't have that drive to play it. And this is kind of what I was saying about, like, I'm glad I played it in bursts. Because I think if I sat down a week ago, I'm like, okay, today's Street Beat day.
Grinding Street Beat.
Grinding Street Beat, I would have a very different takeaway and different view of this game. I will probably still pull this game out when I'm doing like a Commodore nostalgia day for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And play it for 15-20 minutes, see if I get a little better, and then move on to some other game, maybe Bruce Lee or Hero or Temple of Opshai or 100 other like tiny little games, not Zorro, but good games.
Right.
And as soon as I beat this, never playing it again. Like,
I don't think you'll ever beat it.
I might not, because some of the requirements were hard, man.
Yeah, I guess maybe if you got super lucky, like there's dance parties where you can find a bunch of people and make them all dance at once, and that can be helpful when you've got to get like 14 people dancing or something.
The tavern also does like needs a DJ sometimes.
Yeah.
I want to know what "Let's Loot the Supermarket" means, because that's it needs a DJ tonight.
Right. Yeah, I like the little messages that pop up down there. But it's a charming little game. It's like the quintessential short game, really.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's interesting, it's weird, it's kind of fun, it's kind of annoying. It's fun to walk around because the city is pretty rich. Like there's different areas that are quite distinct. There's a park.
Yeah, house in the park for some reason.
Yeah. Some spooky trees.
Yeah, and so it's like you said, it's not a must play. It is fun though, in small doses. We normally talk a little bit about the history of this. Tony Gibson was the guy who made this.
Yep.
Also made, like you said, Bozo's Night Out. Made one of my other, and I don't know if it's one of my favorite games due to nostalgia or something like that. I'll have to try it again. It's called The Pit. And it's kind of like Dig Dug or Mr. Do, where you're collecting treasures underground. But you're an alien going underground to collect treasures while this tank is shooting its way through a mountain to blow up your ship. Cool. And so you got to do everything. And at the bottom, there's this pit with the last bits of treasures in it. And you just got to get all the treasures and get out. It's not like a super involved game, but I always had a lot of fun with it. So I was surprised that and Bozo's Night Out came from the same guy. It kind of cracks me up.
Yeah.
Especially because the Pit was an arcade game. Like, I played it stand-up, not...
Cool.
So...
I've never heard of The Pit.
What did you think of the music? Like, when you had the tape playing? Because it's silent, and then when you start the tape up, it plays different songs depending on what tape you got.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It gets a little old after a while on some of the longer levels, and some of the songs are definitely better than others.
Yeah.
But overall, I liked it. I thought it was a cool mechanic, and it's kind of fun. Like when you get the next tape to see what it's going to sound like, even though they all sound like Commodore music.
They all sound like Commodore music. But it's nice that they made different tapes. They could have very easily cheesed it with the same tape, and I don't think anyone would have dinged them for it. But doing the extra work to make different tapes, I think was a nice touch. I also want to talk about the other game was Seaside Special that plays like this. And I'm going to have to find that because that is you're walking around a beach picking up seaweed and throwing it at famous politicians.
Radioactive seaweed.
Radioactive seaweed. I didn't see the radioactive part. Holy cow, I got to try that.
Maybe I imagined that, but in
your head it was radioactive?
It's definitely radioactive. Yeah.
The guy had an imagination, and I love it. It's...
Yeah. This whole world is just kind of fun because like all the streets are named for songs, and it's like really music centric. You can tell it was a labor of love, even if it gets a little repetitive, and by that I mean super repetitive.
I just think the Tony Gibson universe of Bozo and Rockin' Rodney and whoever's throwing seaweed at people, like I'm glad we dug in on this one and brought this out because holy cow, so much fun.
Yeah, I'm into it. Like I would live in that place.
Right. Okay. Anything else we need to say about this? Other than the other thing I learned from this is that Ghettoblasters are not actually just a larger boombox, but actually meant to be derogatory slang for inner city people and their music and trying to disparage hip hop by politicians at the time.
I didn't know that. I thought the same thing you did. We grew up in northwestern Wisconsin, so
yeah. Well, I actually grew up in Chicago.
Oh, you did. That's right. That's right.
So
I grew up in the middle of nowhere.
You grew up in the middle of nowhere, so that's part of also what blows my mind with. We grew up in very different spots and both came to the same conclusions.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was just a big boombox.
Yeah, I remember getting
D cells.
Yeah, I got a boombox for like one Christmas, and I'm like, man, I wish I'd gotten a Ghettoblaster. All I got was this boombox, and now I'm like, oh man, that's not what that is at all. That sucks.
Yeah, is that something that everyone but us knows?
I don't know. We'll find out in the comments below, I'm sure.
Yeah, if you made it this far.
Do you have a pinnacle and pit?
I think my pinnacle was, like I said, seeing a guy come onto the screen and ducking. It happened many times, and every time it felt cool, like I did it. Mm-hmm. And I think the pit is just getting killed kind of almost randomly just because you were unlucky with the block.
Yeah. And
like you can get really far, and there's no lives. Like the guys who damage your boombox, that can happen like once or twice. I forgot how many times, but eventually it just doesn't. You can't fix it anymore.
Right.
And so if you go into this with the mentality that you're going to beat it, which is kind of how I went into it the first few times, those things are really frustrating. And they frustrated me. But if you go into this with like, I'm going to fuck around with street beats for 20 minutes and, let the chips fall where they may, it's not as heartbreaking, and it's way more forgivable.
And it's fun. It's fun to just be like, I wonder what's going to happen, instead of I'm going to try and do this. And that is the opposite of what I say almost for every other one of these old games, where it's like, go in with a goal, don't have a goal. Go in, play some music, get some people dancing, and have some fun.
Mm-hmm. Just try it because it's weird. That's the draw here.
Yeah.
The weirdness.
I think my pit is the first time I played this and just got murdered over and over again. Every screen I went on, I felt like I couldn't move. But then started getting the hang of it, and I think when I turned in my fourth tape once, I was like, holy cow, this feels great, and then immediately got murdered. But
yeah,
I got to tape 4 once. So.
It's random too, so like your initial experience will be quite different depending on the luck of the draw. Like my first tape was right across the street from the record company, and I was like, oh, this is going to be an easy game, no problem. Like, I found people right away, and then nothing, and then it was just like stuck.
Well, I found a tape right away, but I didn't know I needed batteries, so I'm like, ah.
Yeah. The other thing that's kind of annoying about it too is that you have to hit F5 to turn on and off the boombox, which means taking your hands off the joystick. And there's no real answer for that when you have a one-button joystick, because you need to shoot with the button. But that can be a little annoying to like have to try to get that F5 key, and then if someone comes onto the screen right as you do it.
Well, I was going to say that's a thing with old Commodore games. F1, 3, 5, and 7 are like really big used buttons, because for them that would be the equivalent of your keypad on a modern keyboard. It was this line of them right down the side. They were 4 times the size of a normal button. You couldn't miss them.
Right.
So it was easy to just real quick tap. Here, not so much.
Yeah.
It would probably be worth rebinding if you were really into Commodore games and you had like an Xbox controller, rebinding the higher buttons to be your function buttons.
That's a good idea. That would help here too. I mean, it didn't happen all the time. It wasn't like a constant problem.
No.
But it is, like, if you're just using your native F keys, it can be a little dicey at times. Because that's how you do the volume, that's how you do the power.
Right. I would also, like, I know like the ASZX had some like crossover things with things in joystick 1 and the first port, which is why a lot of games use port 2, so you can't accidentally control things on the keyboard by bumping keys while you're doing other stuff. That also would create a short if you plugged in a Sega Genesis controller that could sometimes fry your Commodore board.
That's not great.
No, but... And there's adapters and stuff you can do so you can actually use one with it, but you got to get an adapter.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think if you're using this on an emulator, which is probably the way you're going to play this, because unless you're like me and just bought a copy off eBay for $5.
Did you really?
I just did this morning. I'm like, you know
Totally
what? I
worth
want
it.
this. $5, I'll do it.
Worth it for that cover.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I'd say go for it. But anything else we want to say? Kind of.
No, just learn the people in your neighborhood and have a good time.
These are the people in your neighborhood. In your neighborhood. And in our neighborhood in a few weeks, Rise of the Triad. Playing that.
Yep.
I will say everything and nothing I expected. Because I was confusing this with a Dynamics game called Rise of the Dragon.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing quite like Rise of the Triad. I'll say that.
No.
For good, bad, ugly, it's definitely its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm excited about this conversation. We got to try to play it multiplayer.
We will figure that out before we do it. We figured it out with Terminal Velocity. I think it will add a lot to this. For our short game this month, I'm doing the image a little different.
Ooh, I see why.
I'm going to see if I can find the ads when I'm bringing in the next game and see if I can bring in the ad for the game to sell the next one. Bruce Lee, Datasoft. I want to wash the taste of Zorro out of my mouth, so I'm putting this game
Definitely.
on the list.
I adore Datasoft games, and I'm excited about this one. And I was excited about Zorro, and I was heartbroken. Maybe not heartbroken.
Yeah, I would say you're not going to be heartbroken at this one. Don't expect a Goonies or a Conan, but still expect a good game.
How do you pronounce that word on the top of this ad, do you think?
Not even trying.
I know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I get where they're going, but I just can't grok it.
I introduced my kids to Bruce Lee like last week, so that's kind of fortuitous. They were playing with a minion in the yellow Enter the Dragon black Bruce Lee outfit.
Cool.
And Livy's like, this guy's from jail. I'm like, that's not what that is. Like, what is it?
Dude.
I'm like, it's Bruce Lee. Who's Bruce? Oh, God. Okay, here's YouTube. Bruce Lee nunchucks. Just watch. And just, they're like, why is he going,
this week we gotta get that outfit. We gotta get that yellow outfit.
Gotta get the yellow
both,
outfit. Are you gonna wear it?
And start wearing them to the show.
Oh, I forgot my cape. I was supposed to have a cape this time. Sorry.
Were you?
Yeah.
Why?
I
mean, I'm not questioning the judgment. It's just
because there was a comment on YouTube about us being heroes for going through Crusader, so they didn't have to.
Oh, that's right.
And I'm like, I want a cape. He's like, I expect one next time, but.
Yeah, we should try. We should trot out the capes when we play something really.
I can tie my hoodie around my neck. We should. Every time we come back and we both know we're gonna just trash it, just put on capes and just.
Yeah, I like.
You're welcome, everyone.
I think we ruined a lot of people's childhoods with that Crusader show.
We ruined mine.
People were so nice about it in the comments.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I loved this game, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Like I'm sure it's good. Like we're wrong. It was good. They're like, "Nah, you were right."
That is one of the things I like about there being two of us on this. Is sometimes we disagree, and we do it civilly and still be friends, and even give each other shit about disagreeing. Mm-hmm. But when we both don't like a game, it's a little harder to argue. Oh. He's being shitty, or he's this, or you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like, no, your nostalgia is blinding you. Auto Duel sucks. Sorry, people.
Crusader was
not as good as you remember.
Less fun. Yeah. Still upsides, but way less fun. Probably.
Way less fun. Yeah, it had its moments. Burning people in Crusader is still
top shelf.
Top shelf. The artwork in Crusader, no complaints.
Yep. Great.
Interface.
Good. Level design, hard pass.
Hard pass on level design, hard pass on interface. Everything else about it was good, and I think I know this isn't supposed to be about Crusader, but I think that's really the truth. And those two things were so important that the whole game, like if you redid that with more of a Diablo or more of a something faster tuned.
Yeah, you'd have something. You'd have a stew going.
Yeah, but that's not what's happening. So,
well, this has been Crusader No Remorse Part 2.
Some things sting so much we got to keep getting it out of our system.
Yeah.
But Bruce Lee's on the screen, and Bruce Lee's next month, and Bruce Lee's awesome. So
Bruce Lee is rad.
All right. Anything else before we go?
I think I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Bye.
Bye.
Big thank you to all of you watching, sharing, liking, subscribing, suggesting games, commenting on our videos, or supporting us on Patreon. We appreciate all of your support and look forward to sharing many more videos with you. Thank you again.